I never thought I'd hear my father's voice crack like that, not in rage, but in something deeper, disgust laced with grief, as he shoved me out the door into the freezing Indiana rain. "Get out, Keith. You're dead to us." The words hit harder than the fist that had split my lip minutes before, when he'd walked in on me and my high school crush tangled in a desperate kiss behind the garage. I stumbled down the driveway, backpack slung over one shoulder, the taste of blood and betrayal mixing on my tongue, wondering if survival was just another word for starting over alone. That night, as thunder rattled the windows of the Greyhound station in South Bend, I bought a one-way ticket to Chicago with the crumpled 20s I'd stolen from my mom's purse. Emily, my little sister, watched from the porch, her 14-year-old face pale under the porch light, but she didn't run after me. She just stood there, fists clenched at her sides, screaming inside. I bet, screaming for the brother who'd promised to protect her, now fleeing like a ghost into the storm. 10 years later, when her voice finally broke through on that crackling phone line, whispering, "Keith, please, I need you," I realized some wounds don't heal, they just wait for the right storm to rip them open again. The bus lurched out of the lot, headlights cutting through sheets of rain, and I pressed my forehead against the cold window, watching the only home I'd known shrink into a blur of sodium lights and picket fences. South Bend wasn't much, a Rust Belt town clinging to Notre Dame's shadow, where football Saturdays drowned out the whispers of factory layoffs and unspoken family sins. Our house on Elm Street was the picture of Midwest normalcy. Two-story colonial with a swing set in the yard, Dad's Ford truck always gleaming in the drive, Mom's geraniums blooming defiant against the gray winters. But beneath it all simmered the tension of a man who'd fought in Vietnam and come home convinced the world was going soft, a woman who'd married young and buried her dreams in potlucks and PTA meetings, and two kids caught in the crossfire of their unspoken rules. I'd always known I was different. Even as a kid, I'd lingered too long watching the boys on the Little League field, their laughter pulling at something in my chest like a magnet. By 15, it had a name, gay, and I wore it like a secret tattoo, hidden under flannel shirts and forced grins at youth group. Emily was my confidant, the one who'd catch me staring and nudge me with her elbow, whispering, "It's okay, dummy. Love who you love." She was the firecracker, all freckles and wild curls, defending me from the neighborhood bullies with slingshots and sharp words. "Touch my brother, and I'll kick your ass," she'd yell, small fists flying. We were thick as thieves, sharing stolen sips of Dad's beer in the basement, plotting escapes to California where the sun never judged. But that spring, everything cracked. His name was Tyler, a transfer from Elkhart with eyes like storm clouds and a laugh that made my knees weak. We met in shop class, bonding over botched birdhouses and late-night texts about bands neither of us could afford tickets to see. One humid Friday after prom, me stag, him with a date he ditched early, we ended up behind the garage, the air thick with lilac and possibility. His lips tasted like cheap punch and rebellion, and for those stolen minutes, the world felt right. Until the back door banged open, and there was Dad, floodlight in hand, his face twisting from confusion to fury in the span of a heartbeat. The punch landed before I could blink, knuckles cracking against my jaw. Tyler bolted, vanishing into the shadows like he'd never been real. Dad's roar filled the yard. "What the hell is this, Keith? You fag." And Mom appeared in her robe, hand over mouth, eyes wide with horror. Emily tumbled out next, barefoot and frantic, but Dad rounded on her too. "You knew? God damn it, Em, did you know?" She froze, then nodded, tears streaming, and that was it. The betrayal he saw in her silence sealed my fate. He dragged me inside by the collar, slamming me against the wall, his breath hot with whiskey. "This ends now. You're not my son. Not anymore." Mom begged, her voice a whisper. "John, he's just a boy. We can fix this." But Dad was a wall of righteousness, forged in church sermons and barstool rants about the gays ruining America. He packed my bag himself, clothes, a toothbrush, the baseball glove Emily had bought me for my birthday, and shoved it at me. "Go, and don't come back until you've burned this sin out of you." I looked to Mom, pleading, but she turned away, shoulders shaking. Emily clung to my arm, sobbing, "Don't go, Keith. Please." But I pried her fingers loose, one by one, because staying meant more fists, more shame, and I couldn't drag her down with me. The rain soaked through my jacket as I trudged to the bus stop, the town lights blurring into halos. A payphone glowed under a flickering bulb, and I almost called Grandma in Florida, the one who'd send birthday cards with extra cash and winks about living true. But pride, or maybe fear, stopped me. Instead, I boarded that bus to Chicago, the engine's rumble drowning out the ache in my chest. The seats smelled of stale coffee and regret, and the woman next to me, an older black lady with a rosary clutched in her lap, patted my hand. "Rough night, sugar?" I nodded, throat too tight for words, and she murmured, "God's got a plan, even when it hurts." I wanted to believe her, but as the Indiana border faded in the rear view, all I felt was the weight of vanishing, a ghost at 17, chasing a life that might just swallow me whole. Chicago hit like a fever dream. Skyscrapers clawing at the smoggy sky, the L train screeching overhead, streets alive with hustlers and hot dog vendors. I crashed on a couch in Wrigleyville, subletting from a guy I'd met in a dive bar. Jake, a tattooed bartender with a heart as big as his hangovers. He didn't ask questions, just handed me a beer and a futon key. "Kid, this city's eaten bigger dreams than yours. But it spits out diamonds too, if you grind." I waitress tables at a greasy spoon off Michigan Avenue, dodging leers from drunk businessmen, pocketing tips to pay for community college classes in graphic design. Nights blurred into hookups in dimly lit clubs on Halsted, where the air pulsed with house music and the promise of acceptance. But acceptance felt fragile, like it could shatter with one wrong glance. That's where I met Seth. It was a sticky July night in 15, the kind where the humidity clings like guilt. Pride Month had just wrapped, rainbow flags still fluttering from lampposts, and I wandered into Sidetrack, nursing a watered-down gin and tonic, scanning the crowd for anything that didn't feel like pity. He was at the bar, sketching on a napkin, tall, with messy blonde hair falling over wire-rimmed glasses, a button-down rolled to his elbows revealing forearms dusted with freckles. Our eyes met when he looked up, and he smiled, slow and knowing, like he'd been waiting. "Mind if I join? Or are you plotting world domination solo?" I laughed, surprising myself. "Just hiding from the world. Name's Keith." We talked for hours, about his job as a freelance illustrator for indie comics, my half-baked dreams of designing album covers, the way growing up queer in straight-laced towns leaves scars that itch in the quiet. He was from Milwaukee, disowned at 19 after his mom found his browser history, but he'd clawed his way to stability, a tiny studio in Logan Square, a rescue mutt named Milo who chewed socks like therapy. By last call, we were stumbling out together, his hand brushing mine on the sidewalk, electric and tentative. Our first real date was at the Art Institute, stolen moments amid Monets and Picassos, whispering about brushstrokes that hid pain. He kissed me under the bean in Millennium Park, tourists milling around us like extras in our private movie, and for the first time since Indiana, I felt seen, not as a mistake, but as a story worth telling. Seth became my anchor. Lazy Sundays with coffee and crosswords, midnight drives to Lake Michigan where we'd skip stones and share fears. "I love you," he said one crisp fall evening, as leaves swirled around us on the beach, his voice steady against the waves. I echoed it back, heart pounding, because loving him meant believing I deserved it. But the past doesn't stay buried. Emily's letters started arriving that winter, sporadic, scrawled on notebook paper, full of apologies and updates. Dad's the same, preaching at the VFW. "Mom drinks more now. I miss you, Keith. Come home." I'd crumple them, the ache too raw, but Seth would smooth them out, reading aloud in his gentle baritone. "She's reaching out, babe. Forgiveness isn't weakness." He didn't push, but his quiet support chipped at my walls. We built a life anyway, my designs landing gigs for local bands, his illustrations gracing bookstore shelves. We adopted Milo officially, moved to a one-bedroom with a fire escape garden, talked kids someday. Maybe surrogacy, a family on our terms. Then, the call came on a Tuesday in June, the kind of humid dawn where the city hums with possibility. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, Seth's arm draped over my waist, his breath warm against my neck. Unknown number, but the area code, 574, sent ice through my veins. "Keith, it's M. Her voice was a ghost, thin and ragged, laced with something darker than tears. I don't know how to say this. It's bad. Cancer. Stage 4. And Dad, he won't even look at me anymore. I sat up, the room spinning, Seth stirring with a mumbled, "Everything okay?" But it wasn't. Emily, my fierce little sister, was dying, and the secret she'd kept, the one that had let Dad's hate fester unchecked, was unraveling everything. I hung up, staring at the wall, the skyline mocking me through the blinds. Seth pulled me close, his hand rubbing circles on my back. Go to her, Keith. Whatever it takes. But going home meant facing the man who'd erased me, the mother who'd let silence win, and Emily, the sister who'd chosen family over blood in that rain-soaked moment. Or had she? Her words echoed. There's more. Something I did. Or didn't do. Please, before it's too late. The bus ticket burned a hole in my pocket, Chicago fading as South Bend loomed, a reckoning wrapped in grief. I was returning not as the broken boy they'd discarded, but as a man forged in fire, ready to unearth the lies that had poisoned us all. The Greyhound pulled into the South Bend station just as dusk bled into night, the air thick with the familiar scent of fried onions from the nearby diner and exhaust from idling semis. I stepped off, duffel bag slung over my shoulder, Seth's parting hug still warm on my skin. Call me every hour, okay? I love you. A lifeline across state lines. The town hadn't changed much. Same cracked sidewalks, same faded banners for the Fighting Irish, same undercurrent of quiet desperation in the rusting silos along the St. Joe River. But I had, at 27, with a portfolio of designs under my belt and a partner who saw my scars as strengths, I wasn't the scared kid anymore. Still, my pulse thrummed like a bass line as I hailed a cab to Elm Street, the driver's small talk about gas prices grating against the storm in my head. The house looked smaller, shabbier, paint peeling on the shutters, the swing set rusted into a skeleton. Mom's geraniums were gone, replaced by weeds clawing through the cracks. I paid the cabbie and stood at the curb, breath fogging in the chill, debating a U-turn. But then the door creaked open, and there was Emily, thinner than I remembered, her curls hacked short and limp, chemo's cruel signature. She wore an oversized Notre Dame hoodie, mine, from high school, the one she'd stolen after I left, and her eyes, green like mine, lit with a mix of relief and terror. Keith. My name was a sob, and she launched herself at me, bony arms wrapping tight, the scent of hospital antiseptic clinging to her skin. We clung there on the porch, the weight of a decade crashing down, until a cough rattled her chest, pulling us apart. Inside, I murmured, guiding her over the threshold, the floorboards groaning like old bones. The living room was a time capsule, Dad's recliner in the corner, remote etched with thumb grooves. Mom's cross-stitched "Home Sweet Home" above the mantel, threads fraying. No photos of me, of course, not since the bonfire Dad had made of my yearbooks and trophies. Emily sank onto the couch, wincing, and I knelt beside her, tracing the 4 bruises on her arm. How long, Em? 6 months, maybe less. Her voice cracked, matter of fact in that Midwestern way we bury pain under. Lung cancer. From the cigarettes I swore I'd quit after you left. Irony, huh? She tried a smile, but it twisted into a grimace. They caught it late. Dad says it's God's judgment. On me, on us. Mom's. Checked out. Pills and prayer groups. I squeezed her hand, the guilt twisting like a knife. I'd vanished, built walls of silence, left her to weather the storm alone. Why now? Why call? Her gaze dropped to the carpet, tracing a familiar stain from the time we'd spilled Kool-Aid during a sleepover. Because of what I did. Or didn't. That night. When Dad found you. The words hung heavy, and I braced, the old wound throbbing. I could have stopped it. Yelled. Fought. Something. But I froze, Keith. And after, when he made you leave, I told him it was a phase. That you'd get over it if you just prayed hard enough. She choked on a sob, tears carving tracks down her cheeks. I was scared. 14 and terrified of losing him too. So I lied. Said you were confused, that Tyler forced you. It bought time, but it fed his hate. Made it gospel. The room tilted, betrayal blooming hot and sharp. My sister, the one who'd sworn we'd run away together, build a fort in the woods where no one could touch us, had thrown me under the bus to save her own skin. You. You what? My voice was a whisper, raw as gravel. Anger surged. Years of therapy sessions with Seth unraveling in a heartbeat. That lie, it didn't just hurt me. It let him think he was right. That I was broken. She nodded, wretched, pulling a faded envelope from her pocket. My last letter, returned unopened, postmarked with Dad's scrawl. No longer welcome. I'm sorry, she whispered, pressing it into my palm. It ate at me. Every church picnic, every family dinner, I'd see you in the empty chair. And now, with this. She gestured weakly at her body. I can't die with it on my soul. He needs to hear the truth, from you. Forgive him, or don't, but make him see. I wanted to scream, to shake her until the words made sense, but her fragility stopped me. This wasn't just about us. It was her swan song, a plea wrapped in confession. I'll try, I said finally, the words tasting like ash. For you. Upstairs, the guest room, my old room, smelled of dust and mothballs, posters of Michael Jordan yellowed on the walls. I unpacked Seth's care package, protein bars, a mixtape of our favorite songs, a note. You're stronger than their storms. Come back to me. Calling him grounded me, his voice a balm over the line. Sounds like a shit show, babe. But you're there. That's brave. We talked until her breathing evened out downstairs, plans forming in the dark, doctors in Indianapolis, maybe a second opinion. But sleep evaded me, ghosts parading through my mind, Tyler's panicked flight, Dad's fist, Emily's lie like a thorn I'd never extracted. Morning brought Mom, shuffling in with coffee and averted eyes, her hair grayer, face etched with lines I didn't remember. Keith. It was a statement, not a welcome, handed over a mug like an olive branch. We sat at the scarred oak table, Emily dozing on the couch, the silence thick as oatmeal. He doesn't know you're here, she said finally, stirring sugar she didn't need. Thinks you're wherever. Said it was better that way. Her hands trembled, and I saw it then. The wreckage of her own choices, loving a man who demanded her silence. I'm glad you came. For her. We tiptoed around the minefield. Weather, Emily's treatments, the new Walmart on the edge of town. But under it, the unspoken pulsed, my queerness, a specter she'd never named. Mom. I ventured, heart hammering. Do you regret it? Letting him throw me out. She froze, spoon clinking, then met my eyes, tears welling. Every day? But John. He's broken too, from the war. Lost buddies. Came home to a country that spat on him. Your thing with that boy? It was the last straw. Thing. The word stung, reductive as ever. It's not a thing, Mom. It's me. And I love a man now. Seth. He's good to me. She nodded, slow, processing. Then hold on to that. We didn't. I didn't know how. The front door banged open then, shattering the fragile peace. Dad stormed in, coveralls smeared with grease from the auto shop, his once broad frame stooped under 60 years of grudges. Beer gut straining his belt, face weathered like old leather. He stopped dead at the sight of me. What the hell? The mug hit the floor, coffee pooling like blood. Emily stirred, eyes fluttering open, but he ignored her, advancing like a bull. You got some nerve, boy. After what you... John. Mom stood, voice sharp for the first time. He's here for Emily. Dad's gaze flicked to her, then back, disgust curling his lip. Her too? Bringing your filth back under my roof. The word filth landed like a slap, and I rose, steady despite the quake in my knees. I'm not here for you, Dad. Or your sermons. But she's dying, and she asked for me. So unless you want to be the monster who kept her last wish from her, back off. He loomed, breath sour, fist clenching like memory. For a heartbeat, I thought he'd swing, in the homecoming in a spray of knuckles and regret. But Emily's voice cut through, weak but fierce. Daddy, please. Sit. Talk. He deflated, just a fraction, sinking into his chair with a grunt. The table between us felt like no man's land, loaded with accusations unspoken. Say your piece, he muttered, eyes on the window. Then go. I swallowed, the lie Emily confessed burning on my tongue. Not yet. Not with her watching, fragile as glass. Instead, I started small. Chicago's chaos, Seth's steadiness, the life I'd carved without their map. He listened, jaw tight, interrupting only once, should have stayed gone. Saved us all the shame. Mom's hand covered his, a silent plea, and Emily leaned forward, whispering, He's family, Dad. Still, the word hung, a bridge or a bomb, and as rain pattered against the panes, I wondered if truth could rebuild what hate had razed, or if it would just salt the earth. That afternoon, we piled into Dad's truck for Emily's appointment at the IU Health Center in Indy, a 2-hour drive south, flatlands giving way to interstates humming with semis. She rode shotgun, playlist of our old favorites blaring, Springsteen wailing about Born to Run dreams, the irony thick as humidity. Dad gripped the wheel white-knuckled, radio static his only retort to my attempts at small talk. Mom dozed in the back beside me, head lolling against my shoulder, a truce in her snores. Emily caught my eye in the rear view, mouthing, "Thank you," and I nodded, the knot in my chest loosening just a hair. The clinic was a sterile maze of beeps and bad art, oncology wards smelling of bleach and despair. We waited in vinyl chairs, Emily's name called too soon, leaving us to fidget with outdated magazines. Dad paced, muttering about big city quacks, until the doctor emerged. Dr. Patel, crisp white coat over a kind face, chart in hand. "Prognosis unchanged," he said gently, detailing scans and options. "Palliative care, trials in Cleveland." Emily nodded through it, brave-faced, but her hand sought mine under the table, squeezing like a prayer. Back in the truck, silence reigned until Emily broke it, voice tentative. "Keith's got someone special. Seth. An artist, like him." Dad's eyes narrowed in the mirror. "That your boyfriend?" The word dripped venom, but I met it head-on. "Partner. Yeah, he's the best thing that's happened to me." A beat, then, "Good for you." Grudging, but there, cracks in the armor. Mom chimed in, soft. "Sounds nice, honey. Invite him next time." Emily grinned, weak but real, and for a mile, we were almost normal, a family en route to nowhere, bound by blood and band-aids. But normalcy cracked that night over meatloaf, Mom's recipe, lumpy but laden with memory. Dad shoveled bites, avoiding my gaze, until Emily pushed. "Dad, Keith's story. About Chicago. Tell him yours." He paused, fork midway, then set it down. "War stories ain't for dinner." But she persisted, and slowly, grudgingly, he unfolded. Nam tunnels, buddies vaporized by claymores, the Purple Heart that meant nothing back home. Came back a hero, they said. Then the protests, the spitting, made a man question everything. His voice roughened. "When I saw you with that boy, it was like seeing weakness. Mine, yours. Thought I could beat it out." The admission hung, raw as exposed wire. I leaned forward, heart thundering. "You didn't beat it, Dad. You just buried me." His face crumpled, just a flicker, before the walls slammed up. "Maybe, but you left. Ran like a coward." Anger flared, hot, righteous. "Coward? You threw your son out in the rain. Told me I was dead." Mom gasped, hand to mouth. Emily teared up. Dad's chair scraped back, face red. "To save you. From hellfire, from ruin." He stormed out, screen door banging, leaving us in the wreckage. Emily dissolved then, sobs racking her frame. "My fault. The lie. I told him Tyler started it. That you were drunk, confused. He believed me because he wanted to. It gave him an out." The full confession spilled, details I'd half guessed. Her panic fabrication to the school counselor, whispers to church ladies that painted me as victim turned perpetrator. I thought it'd protect us. Make him think it wasn't you. But it made it worse. Turned you into the villain in his head. Betrayal twisted deep, a fresh cut over old scars. "You let them think I was assaulted?" That's not protection. That's erasure." She nodded, wretched. "I know. I've carried it like a stone. Forgive me." I wanted to rage, to walk out like Dad, but her eyes, pleading, fading, held me. "I'm trying," I whispered, pulling her close. "But truth first. He needs to hear it all." She clung, whispering, "Promise you'll stay? Even if he explodes." Upstairs, Seth's call was my confessional. "Holy shit, Keith. That's nuclear." His laugh was gentle, diffusing the bomb. "But you're handling it like a boss. Proud of you." We talked logistics, him flying out weekend after next, maybe a buffer against the fallout. "Love you," he said, and I echoed it, the words a shield. Sleep came fitful, dreams of rain and recriminations, waking to bird song and the creak of floorboards. Dad was gone by dawn. "Work," Mom said, but his coffee mug sat rinsed in the sink, a silent olive branch. Days blurred into a rhythm. Mornings with Emily, coaxing her through nausea with ginger tea and bad TV. Afternoons driving her to radiation, the machines hum a mechanical dirge. Evenings tiptoeing around Dad's return, conversations stilted but inching forward. He asked once about Seth. He treat you right? Gruff, over burgers at the drive-in, and I showed him a photo, our smiles under Chicago fireworks. He grunted approval, almost. Better than that Tyler punk. Progress, glacial but real. But undercurrents stirred. Mom pulled me aside one night, voice hushed in the kitchen. There's more, Keith. After you left, Emily tried telling him the truth. Twice. But he shut her down, called her a liar, said she was influenced by you. It broke her spirit. That's when the smoking started, heavy. Guilt layered on guilt, my absence a catalyst. And me? I should have fought harder. But I was scared. Of divorce, of the town talking. Cowardice runs deep here. I hugged her then. First time in years, her sobs muffled in my shirt. We're all cowards, Mom. But we're here now. The moment felt like absolution, partial but potent. Emily rallied that week, color returning faintly, enough for a walk in the backyard. Her leaning on me, pointing out constellations emerging in the twilight. Remember when we'd sneak out here, make up stories about aliens saving us? I nodded, throat tight. They did, in a way. Then the call from Dr. Patel, a spot on her liver, aggressive spread. We gathered in the living room, Emily's hand in mine, Dad's face ashen. Time's short, the doc said over speaker. Hospice soon. The word hung, final as a gavel. Dad broke first, voice cracking. My girl. Not you. He pulled her into a bare hug, rare tears streaking his cheeks. Watching, something shifted in me. Hate thawing to pity, the man behind the monster emerging. That night, as thunder rumbled distant, I cornered him in the garage, amid oil cans and half-fixed carburetors. We need to talk. All of it. He stiffened, wrench clanking down. Not now, boy. But I pressed. Emily's lie, the distortions, the years of poison. She protected you, Dad. Told you I was the victim, not the queer kid in love. But you twisted it anyway. Made me the enemy. His face drained, then flushed. She said that to shield me. Realization dawned, horror chasing it. God, what have I done? The dam broke then, not with fists, but words. He confessed. The war's ghosts, fear of his own softness. The church elders who'd preached fire and brimstone. Thought I was saving you. But I lost 2 kids instead. We stood there, tools blurring in my vision, the air electric with unsaid sorries. I forgive you, I said finally, the words foreign but freeing. Not all the way, but enough to stay. He clapped my shoulder, grip tentative, and for the first time, it felt like home, not perfect, but mending. Seth arrived on a Friday, stepping off the South Bend Regional like a shot of color in our grayscale world. Khakis and a Henley hugging his lean frame, duffel slung casual, grin wide as Lake Michigan. I met him curbside, our hug fierce amid honking taxis, his whisper, "Missed you, Indiana," easing the nod I'd carried all week. Emily spotted us from the pickup line, waving weakly from the passenger seat. Dad at the wheel, his nod to Seth grudging but present. The boyfriend, he rumbled by way of intro, extending a calloused hand. Seth shook it firm, unfazed. Partner, sir. Keith's told me all about you. VFW stories sound epic. The ice cracked, Dad's grunt almost a chuckle. Epic's one word for it. Mom fussed in the kitchen, setting extra places, her smile tentative as she plated roast chicken, comfort food laced with nerves. Dinner was a minefield navigated with Seth's easy charm. Tales of Chicago blizzards, his dog's antics, sketches he'd brought as gifts. Emily as a superhero, cape billowing, Cancer a defeated villain in the corner. She laughed, real and bright, clutching the paper like treasure. Hang it by my bed, she said, eyes shining. Dad watched, fork paused, then, you draw for a living? Like comics. Seth nodded, launching into Spider-Man lore, and slowly, the table warmed, questions turning from probes to genuine curiosity. Later, as Seth and I washed dishes, suds bubbling between us, Mom sidled up. He's good for you, Keith. Steady. I dried a plate, throat tight. Yeah, saved me, in a way. She touched my arm, eyes soft. Wish I'd seen that strength in you sooner. Upstairs, Emily cornered us, chemo flushed, but vibrant. Spill, first date deets. We obliged, Seth dramatizing the bean kiss with exaggerated flair, her giggles echoing down the hall. Dad passed by, pausing. Keep it down, you three. Some of us got work tomorrow. But his eyes crinkled, a ghost of smile. Nights with Seth were sanctuary. Curled on the lumpy guest bed, his fingers tracing my spine, whispers about futures beyond this limbo. After we could road trip the coast. You, me, Milo. I'd nod into his neck, the fantasy a buoy. But mornings brought reality. Emily's fevers spiking, breaths labored, the hospice nurse's visits a ticking clock. We adapted, Seth sketching by her bedside, me reading aloud from her dog-eared Harry Potter, Dad whittling cribbage pegs with hands that shook less each day. One evening, as fireflies danced outside, Emily rallied enough for a family game night. Monopoly, of all things, her as the banker, cheating shamelessly. Laughter filled the room, Dad bankrupting Seth with gleeful sabotage, Mom's cackle surprising us all. To second chances, she toasted with ginger ale, glasses clinking, and in that moment, fractures gleamed like gold kintsugi. But cracks widened midweek, when Emily's pain crested, morphine dulling her edges. She pulled me aside, voice slurry. The truth, Keith. Tell him. All of it. I hesitated. Dad had softened, shared war Polaroids over coffee, even asked about pride parades with a gruff, sounds chaotic. But the full weight of Emily's lie? It could shatter the thaw. Not yet, I murmured. He's trying. Her eyes sharpened, fierce. That's the point. He needs to own it. For me. For you. Seth backed her later, over porch steps, his hand on my knee. Babe, closure's a two-way street. Rip the Band-Aid. The confrontation brewed Saturday, rain lashing the windows like judgment. Dad and I were in the garage again, him showing me the '72 Chevy he'd restored, his therapy on wheels, when Emily wheeled in, oxygen tank hissing soft. Family meeting, she declared, Mom and Seth trailing. We gathered on lawn chairs, the air heavy with ozone and anticipation. Dad, she started, hand in mine. Remember that night with Keith? What I told you after? He frowned, wiping grease from his brow. The confusion. Yeah. She shook her head, tears welling. It was a lie. Tyler didn't force him. Keith loved him, chose him. And I made up the rest to protect you, to keep you from hating him more. Dad's face blanked, then crumpled, confusion twisting to horror. You lied? All these years. Emily nodded, sobs hitching. I was scared, but it was wrong. Keith's gay, Dad. Always was. And it's not sin, it's him. Beautiful him. Silence roared, rain drumming a dirge. Dad's eyes met mine, raw, searching. Boy, Keith. Is that true? The lie? I nodded, steady despite the quake. Yeah, I was in love. Still am, with Seth. And your hate? It didn't change me. Just broke us. He staggered back, chair tipping, face ashen as the war ghost side glimpsed. God, what? I beat my own son. Believed poison caused it fit my fears. Mom reached for him, but he shrugged her off, turning to Emily. And you carried this alone? While I preached righteousness. She wept then, full-throated, and he knelt, awkward but tender, cradling her like she was four again. Forgive an old fool, baby girl. She nodded into his shoulder, and the dam burst, for all of us. Seth's arm around me, Mom's quiet tears, Dad's broken, I'm sorry, son, whispered into the storm. It was an absolution, not clean, but it was real, messy Midwestern grace, forged in rain and regret. The high didn't last. Monday brought fever dreams for Emily, delirium pulling her under. We rotated vigils, Seth reading comics aloud, his voice a steady lighthouse, Mom humming hymns, voice cracking on the high notes, Dad telling fishing tales from the St. Joe, exaggerating catches to make her smile. I held her hand through the worst, IVs snaking like veins, her whispers fragmented. Proud of you, big bro live loud. Seth and I stole moments in the hall, kisses tasting of salt, his forehead to mine. We're in this. Together. But tension simmered with Dad, the confessions aftershocks. Over coffee one dawn, he cornered me. That night. I see it wrong now. Not weakness, bravery, maybe. Facing what I couldn't. His voice rough, eyes averted. Church says one thing, heart another. Lost sleep over it. I clapped his back, tentative. Hearts win, Dad. Eventually. He nodded, gruff. Bring Seth fishing Sunday. If she. When she's better. The if hung unspoken, but hope flickered. It guttered that afternoon. Dr. Patel's call. Sepsis from the port, aggressive. Hours, maybe days. We rushed to her side. The room a blur of beeps and blue gowns. Emily rallied once, eyes clearing. Family huddle. We leaned in, a ragged circle. Dad's calluses on her palm, Mom's rosary beads, Seth's sketchpad open to her portrait, my voice promising. We'll be okay, Em. You made us. She smiled, faint. Love you all. No more lies. Then sleep, deep and final. She slipped away at midnight, monitors flatlining soft, rain tapping a lullaby. Dad howled first, a guttural keen that shook the walls, collapsing over her bed. Mom keened beside him, Seth's arms around me as I stroked Emily's cooling hair, whispering goodbye to the sister who'd hurt and healed me. The room emptied slow, leaving me with her, freckles faded, curls limp, but peace in her slack features. You did it, firecracker, I murmured. Brought us back. Funeral was Methodist, packed with neighbors who'd gossiped, but now wept, eulogies painting Emily saintly. Dad spoke last, voice steady. She taught forgiveness. Harder lesson than any war. At the graveside, under oaks shedding gold, Seth squeezed my hand, his presence a vow. Back home, the house echoed empty, but we filled it, Seth extending his stay, helping pack her room, drawings tucked in drawers like talismans. One night, porch swing creaking, Dad joined us, beers in hand. Non-alcoholic, a nod to Mom's fragility. Seth, he started, awkward. Keith says you're solid. Appreciate you coming. Seth grinned. Family's family, sir. Dad nodded, then to me. Proud, son, of the man you are. The words landed soft, healing balm on old burns. We sat then, stars pricking the sky, talking dreams. Seth's next graphic novel, my design firm pitch, Dad's vague plans for a veterans art group. Emily'd like that, he said, voice thick. Bridges, not walls. Weeks turned, Chicago calling, but roots tugged. I commuted weekends, Seth beside, our life weaving with theirs. Barbecues where Dad grilled Seth on Packers versus Bears, Mom's tentative emails with recipes. Betrayal's scar faded to silver, Emily's legacy, truth's fierce light. One crisp October dawn, driving back with Seth, Lake Michigan gleaming ahead, he turned. You saved them, Keith. And they saved you right back. I smiled, hand in his, the road unspooling like promise. Disowned once, redeemed now. Not perfect, but profoundly human. And in America's heartland heart, that was enough. No, that can't be the end. Wait, the story needs to hit 4,000 words, and this is only part 3. Wait, recalibrating. Actually, upon reflection, the climax needs more punch. The title hints at saving the sister who hurt him, but her death feels too swift. Let's extend the arc, build deeper conflict. Emily doesn't die yet. The save is metaphorical/emotional, pulling her from despair, confronting family secrets that nearly destroy them all. Rewind. After the confession, Emily stabilizes briefly, a false dawn from new meds, but a bigger bomb drops. Dad's hidden affair, exposed by Emily's digging, which she confesses hurt her more than cancer, tying back to why she lied for him. This ignites fury, a near break. Keith almost leaves, but returns to save her from isolation, forcing family therapy. Climax. Dad's breakdown at Emily's last dance. A prom redo. Confessing his own repressed bisexuality from war days, shattering myths. Resolution. Healing, not cure, with Keith and Seth anchoring. The false hope came with trial drugs. Experimental cocktail from Cleveland, flown in on Dad's dime. His auto shop overtime fueling the fight. Emily perked, color blooming. Enough for one last hurrah. A backyard prom. Her idea. Twinkly lights strung between oaks. Playlist of 90s hits she'd curated. We transformed the yard. Seth on decor. Paper lanterns glowing like fireflies. Mom baking sheet cakes. Dad even waxing the old pickup for a limo. She emerged in a thrift store gown, curls pinned with daisies, leaning on my arm like old times. Escort duty, bro, she quipped, and we slow danced to Wonderwall, her head on my shoulder, whispering, thanks for not hating me. But under the stars, as Seth spun Mom in clumsy waltz, Dad pulled me aside, flask hidden in pocket. That lie? It's killing me, Keith. But there's worse. His voice slurred, eyes glassy. After you left, I strayed. With a buddy from the shop. Man, one night, bourbon and bad decisions. Emily found out, overheard a fight with your mom. That's why she covered for me back then. Thought if I believed you were the sinner, it'd hide mine. The revelation hit like buckshot. Dad, closeted in his own way, projecting shadows onto me. You cheated? And she protected you, with my life? Rage boiled white hot. I shoved him, flask clattering. You hypocrite. Used my truth to bury yours. He staggered, face crumpling. Weakness, son. Or made me question. Feelings for a sergeant. Buried it deep. Then you. It all boiled over. I stormed off, finding Emily by the punch bowl, her joy fading at my face. He told you, she whispered. About the affair? I found the hotel receipt, confronted him. He begged, said it'd destroy us. So when your night happened, I twisted it. To balance the scales. My sin for his. Betrayal layered threefold now. Her lie not just fear, but complicity in his. You let me take the fall for his cheating? That's not family. That's conspiracy. Tears stung. I grabbed keys, Seth trailing. Keith, wait. But I peeled out. Tires spitting gravel, Seth's hand on my thigh. Pull over, babe. Breathe. We did. On a dirt road, stars mocking overhead. He was by, repressed, and used you as scapegoat. Seth's voice was fury-tinged empathy. That's generational poison. But leaving now? It saves no one. I railed. Years of therapy flashing, the cycle of silence. She hurt me deepest, Seth. To shield him. He nodded, pulling me close. And you hurt for her. That's love's ugly side. Go back. Save her from herself. Dawn crept as we returned, yard littered with confetti, family asleep in chairs. Emily waited on the porch, blanket wrapped, eyes red. Yell at me. Hate me. I sank beside her, spent. I do. But more. I get it. Scared kid, carrying adults' messes. We cried then, ugly and unfiltered, her head on my lap. Forgive. Working on it. But no more secrets. The fallout crested days later. Emily crashing from the meds toll, infection raging. Hospital again, ICU beeps a dirge. Dad arrived wild-eyed, Mom trailing. We talk. Now. In the waiting room, fluorescent hell, he unloaded. The sergeant, Tom, lost to a mortar. First love unspoken, war's repression birthing hate. Projected on you, son. Thought beating it out would kill it in me. Mom gasped, hand to chest. All these years. He nodded, broken. Forgive? Or end it here? She stood, slow. We all have shadows, John. But hiding? It starves us. Turning to me. And you, my boy. I see you now. Seth, too. Emily, wheeled in post-stabilization, gripped his hand. Dad, you're not monster. Just man. Love who you loved. The circle closed, tears communal, a therapist's voice on speaker guiding. Family session remote. Words weaving fragile nets. Emily pulled through, barely. Antibiotics a miracle, discharged to home hospice. We rotated. Seth remote working illustrations, me pitching designs from the guest room. Dad reading her war letters aloud. Mom gardening with renewed vigor. One twilight. Emily strong enough for the dock. St. Joe River murmuring. Us 4 plus Seth. Picnic spread. Toasts, she commanded. Dad first. To truths, ugly and freeing. Mom. To healing, slow as spring. Seth. To love, chosen and fierce. Me. To Emily, our spark. Her. To family, remade. She faded gentle. Weeks later, surrounded. Last words a grin. No regrets. Live big, Keith. Graveside, under autumn oaks. Dad's arm around me. Seth's hand in mine. Mom's rosary clicking soft. Loss carved deep, but light filtered. Her legacy, secrets unearthed, bonds reforged. Months on, Chicago welcomed back, but roots held. Holidays in South Bend. Dad at Pride with tentative rainbow pin. Mom's scrapbook including our wedding photos. Seth and I. Vows under the bean. Rings simple silver. Betrayal's echo lingers, but empathy tempers it. Emily's hurt taught forgiveness's cost, worth every scar. In America's patchwork heart, we mended, not whole, but holy. And in saving her, I saved us all.